Hi, welcome back to Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings. Today, I want to get into Ophiuchus. Now, I did mention on a live that I was doing with Farah from Faraway Astrology and Tarot that I wanted to do this. She also mentioned that she did, and she already did it. She beat me to it. So, definitely go to her channel and check out uh, what she found out about Ophiuchus. And she kind of leans towards she still leans towards Western, whereas I lean towards sidereal, through sidereal. So um, mine is going to lean towards more, this video about why Ophiuchus I think is important. So I first heard about Ophiuchus from Julie Kuchowatz, and she has a whole tarot deck um, that is centered around True Sky or Real Sky astrology. And I don't have that tarot deck, but I do have this workbook. This is called the Real Sky Astrology Tarot Workbook, written by Julie Kuchowatz. And so she actually breaks down who the snake bear is, and she associates the snake bear with the magician. So that kind of gives you a little insight on who Ophiuchus is. And I agree with her. I love it. Um, so the sun transits through the serpent bearer from December 1st to December 16th. Now, those dates I know possibly can vary depending on where you go to have your chart done. And then, so like my daughter was born December 18th, and she used Mastering the Zodiac, and it does come up that she is Ophiuchus. Now, so the planet associated with Ophiuchus, it could be Pluto, it could be Mars, because Ophiuchus does share a house with Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, but it was Mars. So you could associate those traits with Ophiuchus. So, or Chiron. I think that Chiron is actually closer, in my opinion, to be the ruler of Ophiuchus. Element wise, I would say fire and water. I mean, I think something mutable along those lines. So let's talk about the characteristics of Ophiuchus. Now, knowing my daughter, she's very passionate, a lot of wisdom, but of course, she's still young. So, but she does surprise me sometimes with the wisdom in that little body. I actually have here something I pulled up. So, like people from Ophiuchus have, some people believe that it would be a mix between Scorpio and Sagittarius, and I can see that. I can definitely see that. But they've been associated with wisdom and knowledge, open to change. Routine can get boring. I would definitely say that's my daughter. Generally happy, have a lot of charisma, strong sense of justice. The negative traits are possibly jealousy and short-tempered. They could be good at procrastinating, sometimes restless, maybe critical, and possibly secretive. This is a hidden sign. Some more facts about Ophiuchus is that it is one of the 48 constellations mentioned by Ptolemy in the Almagest. It's the serpent holder or the serpent bearer, a man grasping a huge snake with both hands. The head of the snake is in his left hand, and the tail of the snake is in his right hand. The snake is actually representing two different constellations called serpents, and that alone makes it very unique. With the head on one side and the tail on the other. Sometimes it's seen coiled around the waist or sometimes going through the legs. Now, let me show you the image that I found from the Almagest, written by Ptolemy. Nope, we're going to have to pause this real quick. Okay, here is the picture from that, and you can see the snake going through the legs, which kind of reminds me of a like symbolic of the sexual organ, which leads me to think about the Kundalini. So I want to get into why I think Ophiuchus was hidden and why it's very important today. And in fact, the title that I put on here was Nostradamus and Ophiuchus, you know. Okay, I definitely am going to talk about that too. So the Greeks identified him as Asclepius, the god of medicine. It is Asclepius in Latin. He was the son of Apollo and Cronus, although some say that his mother was Arsinoe. The story goes that Cronus two-timed Apollo by sleeping with a mortal, Isis, while she was pregnant by Apollo. A crow brought Apollo the unwelcome news, but instead of the unexpected reward, the crow, which until then had been snow white, was cursed by Apollo and turned black. In a rage of jealousy, Apollo shot Cronus with an arrow. Rather than see his child perish with her, Apollo snatched the unborn baby from its mother's womb, and the flames of the funeral pyre engulfed her and took the infant to Chiron, the wise centaur, represented in the sky by the constellation Centaurus. So Chiron raised Asclepius as his own son, teaching him the arts of healing and hunting. So Asclepius became so skilled in medicine that not only could he save lives, he could also raise the dead. So we're now seeing kind of an archetype being created, raising the dead, medicine. Asclepius and the snake. On one occasion in Crete, Glaucus, the young son of King Minos, fell into a jar of honey while playing and drowned. As Asclepius contemplated the body of Glaucus, a snake slithered towards it. He killed the snake with his staff. Then another snake came along with an herb in its mouth and placed it on the body of the dead snake, which magically returned to life. Asclepius took the same herb and laid it on the body of Glaucus, who too was magically resurrected. So this is just a story of Asclepius. And Asclepius, I think, was murdered by Zeus because he was upsetting the balance by bringing all these, bringing the dead back to life. So there is controversy that Ophiuchus is not one of the 12 constellations, because some believe that it does not, that the sun doesn't pass through it. Well, I believe that it is right on the ecliptic, which also makes it the galactic center. So I found a little bit on what like associations with the galactic center on why I think that is Ophiuchus also. Okay, first I want to show you a clip from a video that was sent to me a while back. And it actually comes from a site called Perplexed Perception, and they sent this to me through my Facebook. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about it. But remember talking about the Ophiuchus and the snake going through his legs and why it reminded me of the sexual organ, and then pertaining to this right here. Okay, so listen to this. Let me put this back up here.
Realized and taught the great truth that Christ was a substance, an oil, or an ointment, contained especially in the spinal cord, consequently in all parts of the body, as every nerve in the body is directly or indirectly connected with the wonderful river that flows out of Eden, the upper brain, to water the garden. The early Christians knew that scriptures, whether written in Hebrew or Greek, were allegories, parables, or fables, based on the human body, fearfully and wonderfully made. You have to understand the etymology of these words, what they mean. So,
okay, so I feel like we are talking about alchemy. Okay, so which brings me to something I found in a book by Manly P. Hall, where he was talking about a certain alchemist. So let me bring that up. Okay, so Manly P. Hall was talking about famous alchemists and his secret teachings for the ages. And Manly P. Hall was a well-known Freemason. He wrote a lot of books, and in this particular book, he talks about Paracelsus. Now, alchemy is not creating something from nothing. It is perfecting the potential that's already there to turn it into something greater or perfect, And so Paracelsus, let's see, Paracelsus. So this is something interesting that I found. It's agreed upon, according to Manly P. Hall, it's agreed upon that his birth date was December 17th, but he could have been anywhere from November 11th to December 17th. But Manly P. Hall said it was agreed upon that he was born December 17th. Now listen to what he was responsible for. He rejected traditional education in medicine, but he was a doctor. So he's responsible for like curing cancer and shoot, I'm having brain farts here, but anyway, so people that either loved or hated him, and the people that loved him actually gave him credit for raising the dead. So, or not so much like raising the dead, but curing, the deathly ill. And he was either loved or hated because, he wasn't the nicest person. So, but I thought it was interesting that Manly P. Hall, who did not recognize Ophiuchus, recognized that it was agreed upon that his birthday was December 17th, which would put him in Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus is the healer, the serpent bearer, which carries the wisdom, and the snake is actually wrapped around the that rod that I forget what that's called. It's a staff, but we see it in the medical field. The caduceus, I couldn't think of it, but it's the short staff entwined by two serpents, sometimes surmounted by wings, while the rod of Ophiuchus is one with a single snake. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So the article that I'm looking at now talks about how it was shrouded in mystery where this comes from. And it only makes sense. This is Ophiuchus, and he was the god of medicine. He was the son of Apollo, god of healing. Look at that staff. Hermes, Mercury, was the messenger of the gods and known for carrying a staff known as the caduceus. The caduceus included two snakes topped off with a set of wings, and the caduceus is from the Greek root meaning herald's wand and was a badge of diplomatic ambassadors associated with commerce, eloquence, alchemy, thievery, and lying. But here's the thing. Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, has been associated with Imhotep. Imhotep is associated with Thoth, and Thoth is associated with Hermes or Mercury. So they're all pretty much archetypes of the same person, what do they call them? Different pantheons. So here's something really interesting in this article. It says Hippocrates of Kos was a physician, the father of Western medicine. It is believed that Hippocrates was a direct descendant of Ophiuchus, which I'm not pronouncing. That's the actual Latin word, I think, or Greek word. Hopefully, most of you know the Hippocratic Oath begins with the words, "I swear by Apollo, the physician, and by Ophiuchus." So That kind of says so much. Okay, so why is it hidden? So here are some things that I found. And and going back to the video that I showed you earlier, this is the video talking about the sacred fluid, and I believe that this will lead us into the importance of Ophiuchus and the association with the zodiac and what he's talking about here. So watch a little bit of this.
In order to make new life, it's charged with electric soul power. But that force also, if not used to make life and not expelled or wasted, it changes its chemistry once it mixes together. That's the chemical wedding that the alchemists talk about. Once that new substance happens, it becomes less dense and it floats back up the spinal column in the cerebral spinal fluid, like mercury does in a thermometer, and it rests. Exercise, and it rests there for 2.5 days. Now that 2.5 days is significant because it's the time each month that the moon is in the sign in which you were born under, your sun sign. So whatever month you're born under, that's the month, that's your sun sign. And the moon goes every 28 days, or sometimes 29, just like the female cycle. It goes through each stage in the sky of the sun sign. So every month, every person has 2.5 days where the moon is in their sun sign. And that particular moment, that type of light is a cycle that started at your birth. And your body knows when that is. You might not know, but your subconscious body knows. And it takes an electrical charge from a combination of the sun and the moon's electromagnetic energy and charges this up while it's in your solar plexus. That's why it's called your solar plexus. Ever pinnacle of the temple, the modus operandi, in which the oil of the spinal cord reaches the pineal gland and is described in what follows. There is no name under heaven whereby you may be saved except Jesus Christ did, or christened, and then crucified. The correct rendering of the text in Greek. Every 29.5 days, when the moon is in the sign of the zodiac that the sun was in at the birth of the native, there is a seed, a psychophysical germ, born in the or out of the solar plexus, also known as the manger. And this seed is taken up by the nerves or branches of the pneumogastric nerve and becomes the fruit of the tree of life, or the tree of good and evil. Good, if saved and cast upon the waters, circulation to reach the pineal gland, and it's known as evil if eaten or consumed in sexual expression on the physical plane, or by alcoholic drinks or gluttony, people away from the real place of salvation, which is your own body, the human form. And the tree of life is your cerebrospinal tree, your cerebrospinal system. Your brain is the root ball, and all your nerves branch out, going down your body like a tree. You know, we are like a walking inverted tree. That is the original tree.
Bear with me through this video. I've been skipping around on purpose, but I will try to link this video too. I highly recommend watching this video. It's very well done, very well explained. But here he does talk about the 12 disciples, and this is important too because there were 12 disciples, which makes Jesus the 13th, hence the 13th zodiac. I am really getting into something here, so watch this.
But there's only 4 accounts of them in the Bible, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, where's the other 8? Well, they were all there, but they were conveniently edited out for all kinds of political reasons. A very important point in the minds of those ignorant priests, whether or not an angel had wings, was decided in favor.
Sorry, my phone timed out.
The minority contended that as Jacob let down the ladder for the angels to descend and ascend upon, it was a prima facie evidence that the angels do not have wings. Okay, what he's talking about there in that paragraph is that Jacob's ladder was not a real event that some man Jacob witnessed. Jacob's ladder was a story, an allegory that talked about the spine, the ladder that angels went up and down, referred to the influence of the signs of the zodiac upon the earth, upon the colossal ignorance of these priests who did not know that Jacob in Hebrew means heel catcher or circle, a ladder that referred to the influence of the signs of the zodiac upon the earth. And as one sign rising every 2 hours forms a circle every 24 hours, the 24 elders of Revelation, the outer stars of the rising suns, suns, S-U-N, rising suns, middle. And suns, S-O-N-S. Catching on, he asks, to the last sons of the sign ascending. So, okay, there's two meanings. There is the ladder, which, like I said before, is the human spine, in which the prodigal son of the sacred oil, or Christos, travels up and down to offer healing and enlightenment to the human form. And then there's...
So Ophiuchus has been associated with the Christ consciousness too, especially if you are considering there are 12 disciples and Jesus being the 13th. And also, mind you, with everyone talking about Ophiuchus being the 13th zodiac sign, I don't believe it's the 13th. I believe it's the 9th, which makes Pisces the 13th. And what happens when we leave Pisces? We go back to the beginning, Aries. And the 13th tarot card in the major arcana is death. And death is, transformation. It is the ending of something and something new beginning. And Ophiuchus would be 9, which also means completion. I wouldn't say death. Pisces would be that. That Pisces is like the death of the ego.
Also, the heel catcher, the word, the name Jacob. And in very ancient zodiacs, you'll see a man drawn in the center of them, where his back is arched and his heels circle around and touch the back of his head to create a circle. And that's what the word Jacob means. That's the name. It's the man in the sky.
The man in the sky. And okay, another video I'm going to suggest watching, and I will put this in here. It was extremely revealing. Was a video called Code 12. So I will also link that. Code 12, and in fact, a well-known true sidereal astrologer, Ike Rodriguez, he is actually in this movie, and he brings so much to the table in this. And I would suggest watching that, because oh my goodness, there's more than just Ophiuchus in there, but Ophiuchus is very important. Ike Rodriguez actually, before doing this movie, had been in Egypt for 3 months. And I find it very interesting that Julie Kuchowatz, sorry, I keep saying your name wrong, Julie. She went to Egypt. And so it's like Egypt is very triggering in bringing this information forth, and this desire to bring it forth. So getting back to this video talking about the man in the sky, Ike Rodriguez says that the Ophiuchus sits in the galactic center. And so I'm watching this, and it's clicking in my brain, the galactic center, the man in the sky. Hello, they're one and the same.
Which refers to the zodiac, which is a reflection of the time cycle of the human body. Constantine and his dupes saw that the only way to perpetuate the infamy was to keep the world in ignorance of the operation of the cosmic law. So they changed, quote unquote, times and seasons. So that's what I'm saying. The invention of the Julian calendar, the Gregorian calendar, there's other Roman calendars. They slowly changed the beginning of the year, some of the names of the months, the amount of days in a month. That's why we have leap years now. You know, for example, the word March is not the third month of the year because the spring equinox happens March 20th.
I would really love for this content creator to put Ophiuchus there and then expand upon, everything that he is referring to. Because, okay, if you watch Code 12, you will learn a little bit more than I can explain to you. For one, I kind of suck at explaining things that I've just read. But, you will learn about quantum physics on association with the zodiac. You will learn a lot of things that will lead you up to understand that Ophiuchus was hidden on purpose. And I believe that Ophiuchus was hidden on purpose. The Babylonians knew about Ophiuchus. And so the controversy is that it doesn't sit on the ecliptic, but it does. And you can walk out with your sky app and look and see what's in the sky. So obviously, Western is not correct in even telling you what your sun sign is in. So the whole idea of the movie Code 12 is kind of like, we are trapped in this matrix. And in order to get out of it, we have to realize that we're in the matrix. And part of that is like, so if we're searching out our, knowing thyself and using systems like astrology or palmistry, I know I've talked about this before. If we are using those systems, then they need to be accurate. And I think that is why Ophiuchus was hidden, because we are given this blueprint of, who we are. And if we, let me put this over here. If we are looking at an accurate blueprint, well, then say we're struggling with something, then we can look at the blueprint and see those struggles, because we might not recognize it right away. Ego gets in the way of that. Okay. And alchemy is seriously like what he was just talking about. Alchemy is turning that potential into something greater than. The Essenes, who probably went on to be the Knights of the Templar, and then the Knights of the Templar were the Rosicrucians, and the Rosicrucians are the Masons. It's a long history of sitting on esoteric knowledge, and then now all of that is coming to light, which is kind of going to bring me to what I put in my title about Nostradamus. It's very pertinent to what Ike Rodriguez says in the Code 12 movie about the Mayan calendar. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so I found this on YouTube, and this is from the Lost Books of Nostradamus. Now, there's controversy around that too, because these are images that were found that there's controversy on whether it was actually Nostradamus. But after watching this, I think you'll understand why there is controversy.
Nostradamus he had a 13-sign zodiac. We have a 12-sign zodiac in our world today. And this 13th sign was between Sagittarius and Scorpio. It's called Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus is called the secret sign, and it's noteworthy that it is the 13th one, the unluckiest number according to numerology. Ophiuchus, a Greek term meaning serpent holder, is clearly depicted on the front of the church, some say, and also in the Lost Book. It is this constellation and its position in the sky that holds a critical clue about the last days.
Ophiuchus crosses the celestial equator just at the point where the center of the galaxy meets the celestial equator. Now, in Nostradamus' day, they had...
So this video was 10 years ago. And I will also link these two videos from this particular YouTube channel. I wish that they had done more because it's so fascinating. And you can look up the lost books of Nostradamus and look at those images for yourself.
Idea that there was such a thing as a galaxy, much less that there was a center of the galaxy. But all of these end of the world prophecies, all of these connections with Judgment Day and the Apocalypse and so forth, are all connected with a certain alignment. And that alignment is when the sun tends to fall into Ophiuchus, into the gap in between Scorpio and Sagittarius.
It is in this very gap, in the area between Scorpio and Sagittarius, known as the Dark Rift, that the center of the Milky Way galaxy is located. The great alignment will occur when the sun rises in perfect alignment with the center of the galaxy,
which happened December 21st, 2012. And apocalypse actually means hidden. It's what is hidden is coming to light. It's not a big war as much as a revealing of the truth.
You know that Nostradamus knew that the occult symbol,
obviously this is from the History Channel,
was the center of the galaxy in the night sky. So he used that as his marker. It's like the hours on the clock. They're just telling you what time it is.
Nostradamus scholars believe that the 7 images embedded in the Lost Book carry the reader step by step through a terrifying premonition of coming events. They are to culminate in the final disclosure of exactly when the apocalypse will occur.
We know that Sagittarius is pointing his arrow right at the center of the galaxy, which is Ophiuchus, which is probably represented by the scroll that runs up the side. And what it's saying is that at the moment of the alignment of this great moment, the knowledge of the trees in the Garden of Eden will be revealed.
Barely discernible in this image, number 67 is believed to be one of the most startling and mystifying clues in the entire manuscript. If you look closely at the writing on the small book's page in this drawing, you can see clearly in unmistakable English the words, "one male." The remaining drawings in the sequence are said to illuminate this hidden message and reveal the dire information that no one wants to imagine.
Okay.
Nostradamus researchers point to image 60.
So maybe I can find the actual episode from the History Channel that I can link that also, because I think that's probably going to go into greater detail of what you just saw there, that clip. But, if we are going back to who this Ophiuchus could be, if he has been associated with Thoth, then he's also Thoth is Nishkangul, which is Enki's son. So now we're getting into stuff about the Anunnaki. And I remember reading in the Lost Book of Enki that Enki was extremely interested in astrology and the stars. So also, if I was to refer back to Farah's video, she does bring up a lot of good points about the science of it or the mathematics of it. Whereas if you watch Code 12, you will get an answer to all of the questions that she proposes. That I rented that for, I think, $2.99 on Prime Video, and it is an excellent movie. I would suggest watching that because there is a lot of information in that, and they do bring up mathematics and science and some very interesting points about the pyramids, and if they were built by Thoth, if he actually created them, then there was a method to the madness there that had everything to do with these numbers 23.5, and where they point and what they're pointing at, which is Ophiuchus. So I mean, really, I would suggest taking a look at that before making up your mind about anything, because it's a lot of information, and don't take my word for it. I did find this. This is the diagram from the History Channel of the center point where the sun aligned with the center of our Milky Way galaxy on December 21st at 2012 at 11:11 a.m. And Nostradamus showed the zodiac signs with the sun aligned on that date. And it corresponds with the Mayan calendar. So also here it says apocalypse. Nostradamus speaks of apocalypse, but he speaks of a specific time. Apocalypse, the lifting of the veil, the enlightenment. The word apocalypse actually means the lifting of the veil, the enlightenment to the mind of what has been hidden. The constellation alignment on December 21st, 2012. Nostradamus predicted that the time of the great shaking would be when the constellation Ophiuchus comes together with the arrow of Sagittarius and the arm of Scorpio. This is the constellation star map showing that point. You see where Ophiuchus is stepping on the scorpion in the path of the arrow of Sagittarius. This is the point that Nostradamus said would be the effect of the apocalypse. And it is the exact point where the center of the galaxy appears every 13,000 years. 13. At the point where the sun appeared at the center of the galaxy for the first time in 26,000 years on December 21st, 2012. This is the History Channel report. The 3 zodiac signs that Nostradamus is obsessed with do in fact play an extremely important part in our night skies. In the center of these 3 zodiacs, where the arrow of Sagittarius, the foot of Ophiuchus, and the claw of Scorpius meet. The coming together of Sagittarius, Ophiuchus, and Scorpio occurred on December 21st, 2012, and is referred to as extremely important. In that exact spot lies the center of our galaxy, Ophiuchus. As our solar system moves throughout the galaxy, it very rarely passes by the center point. However, if it were to pass through, then the axis of our planet Earth and the equator of the universe would briefly cross each other and create an 8-spoked wheel. According to many, that time is upon us. Late 2012 is now the predicted time that this rare galactic alignment will take place. This is older. The spot where the 3 constellations met is the center of our galaxy. Seldom does the solar system pass by the center point, but it occurred on December 21st, 2012. Oops, sorry about that. The center of the figure in the December 21st, 2012 alignment was Ophiuchus. And in 2011, he became a point of interest to the world. There is a reason. And just to keep our interest, look at what follows. Oh, this is interesting. 2 suns. This is I'll have to link this article. So this is really good too. But okay. So in my opinion, back to what I was talking about with looking at a system. Like you're given a manual for a car or, directions to put something together. Usually there's a troubleshooting manual. So if you look at that, it tells you how to fix it, and so when we're born, we're perfect. Usually we're perfect unless we bringing in this past karma, that we need to fix in this lifetime. It is believed by many cultures, many ancient theologians, that we have to go through a cycle. And if we don't add the 13th in there, we might be missing something. And so in order that, like in the movie, The Code 12, she's looking for this key that breaks that cycle. It takes us out of the matrix. If we are just complying, we're going to miss it. So I don't think it's so much important that we are focused on, what sign we're in this lifetime. I think what we're looking for is the potential. What are the areas that we need to work on so that we can level up and get out of this matrix? If we want to continue the cycle, well, then we're going to be tethered to this 3D physical self. We're going to let the ego drive us. But as long as, and like the Kundalini, the ego has to die. I think that the serpent is the key. Everything that has to do with the serpent is the key. It's the bearer of knowledge, the serpent bearer. We have to battle it. We have to learn. I think there's so many symbolic references that, if we're just paying attention to, like myself in True Sidereal, I'm Virgo, and all the great things associated with Virgo. But on the shadow side of that, Virgo might imprison themselves with creating too many rules or wanting to be the better person all the time. So I think the idea is to see where we fall short. And that's where we want to work on those areas, because true alchemy, again, doesn't create something from nothing. It builds upon the potential that is there. So why I was bringing up the Essenes, it's like their books were about, transformation. It's ascension. And Jesus studied with them. So that's what he learned to do. Again, it's that Ophiuchus archetype, He took that wisdom, and look at the amazing miracles that he did with that wisdom. So that's what it is, I think. I think that's the key. It's not so much, knowing all the good qualities that we have and focusing on that. Yes, that's important. But it's important to find where we fall short and work on that. So, I guess, I guess the only thing I would say from this point, why I think it's important is because, if you're truly, like, you don't want a manual that is vague. You don't want something that just kind of gives you the basics, not if it's a detailed problem. You know what I mean? So you want a detailed manual, right? And I think that, so therein lies, are you willing to dive into the truth and break it down and follow the truth? So whatever that is for you, I just think it's very important to realize, if it was hidden, why? Oh, I do have one more thing to show you real quick that I thought was interesting. And I actually found it's in the movie, but I couldn't screenshot anything from the movie because you really do need to watch it. It's so good. So I found this picture just by researching the Temple of Dendera, which is in Egypt. This is on the ceiling. And this is actually what is hidden, and it's Thoth, but it is the 13th deacon. And Ike Rodriguez talks about it in the movie Code 12. It's like the excuse for it being blacked out like that is this, just that they didn't get around to cleaning it. And of course it's on the ceiling. So why? I always ask myself why. And I think it's important. Even if you are withholding or gatekeeping information, it's still a form of a lie, especially if somebody is asking the question. And this is also from another temple. So here's something that you will have to watch the movie for. But this is from the Temple of Esna, another temple in Egypt. And it is displaying the zodiac. So here we see, this is supposed to be Scorpius or Scorpio. And then here we have Sagittarius. But if you look at the edge of this picture right here, that is not Scorpio. There's something, because here, look at even here. So what is in between these two is not here. But here's Sagittarius and here's Scorpio. So everyone that thinks that Egypt only had 12 zodiac signs, I think that's because, again, they're hiding something too. And you can see it here. I'll bet if you go to the temple and you can see it in this movie, they're definitely hiding something because they claim they don't know what it is. So watch the movie because it's very important. There's little serpents in between these two zodiac signs. So, sometimes that is all the motivation I need. What are you hiding? Ask my kids, what are you hiding? Okay. You obviously don't want to tell me something. Why? There's always the why that is important. And it's what we need to know. We can't just accept what we don't know if it's this important, if it has something to do with our, getting out of the matrix. So anyway, I know that's probably a lot to take in. And again, search it out for yourself. But, here's some things to think about. Like talking about the Mayans knew more than what we know. All these ancient civilizations knew more than we know. Aztecs call, okay, I'm looking at my notes here. Something else that Ike talked about in the movie or Isaac, I think that is there is a crossing of two worlds that is happening, a merging of two galaxies. And it is the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy and ours. So the zodiac, they look at it as it's like it's a clock. The movie talks about 12 is referencing to a lot of things, and Farah actually talks about that in her video. But 12 is visible, and it locks us in this prison or this matrix, whereas 13 is hidden, but it is the key to freedom. Let's see. I wrote down a few notes about like different things that, the 12, like, the 12-point wheel, but there is 0 point in the center. 13, it made me think of like the tarot. You have 24 major 23 major arcana, but it's only numbered to 22. That's because 0 is actually the first one. So that kind of makes sense. Sorry, glad you're staying with me here. 13 postures of Tai Chi, which again, she makes reference to all the things in this code 12 like that have to do with 13, but I'm enticing you. So she says there's 13 principles of Jewish faith. In Hinduism, every 13 days of each month, it is dedicated to the Lord Shiva. And the Lord Shiva is the destroyer of worlds, the liberator, and final emancipation. She also makes reference that in Wicca, that the coven needs 13 members. In Norse mythology, Loki is the 13th guest to arrive at a dinner party in Valhalla, and he is upsetting the balance of the 12 gods. And we talked about 13 being the death card. And the death card being transformation. She says that 13 is the Alpha and the Omega, and Jesus is also the 13th person at the Last Supper. So, and I think too, you can also associate the zodiac with the 12 disciples. So obviously, where does that put Jesus? He is the 13th. And I still am thinking that something very important is that Ophiuchus is 9 and Pisces is 13. Pisces has been associated with Jesus also. So I think that's also important. You know, there's typically a Messiah for each age. So yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it at that because I've already spent 52 minutes of your time and there was a lot of ums and ahs in there. So definitely do your research and let me know in the comments what you think. And I will definitely link all these things that when you watch this, you can look up for yourself. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a blessed day.